Thanks so much for joining us for this really special conversation around ladies in leadership. My name's Chris Los. I had the very unique opportunity of growing up under the same roof with a grandmother, a mother, and a sister. The strength of women has never been anything new to me as I got to grow up daily and watch it myself, which is what really excites me about this conversation today. It's intentional, and the goal is that one young lady watching this might be able to see from these women I have here today that they can do it too. So it's with that, I'm honored to introduce to my right, City of Duarte's Mayor, Jody Schultz. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Chris. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. And to my left, City of Monrovia's Mayor, Ms. Becky Shevlin.
Hi, Chris. And again, yes, pleasure to be here, an honor to be here.
It is. I thank both of you. I know I reached out. Over the couple years, I've gotten to get to know you better. And it just dawned on me as I was talking to my dad, I'm like, Dad, we've got a woman mayor in Monrovia and Duarte. This is kind of cool and like really powerful at the same. So in that, to get to know you a little bit better, I'll start with you, Jody. Let us know, where were you born? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in a very small town in southern Illinois of about 10,000 people. So I grew up, my father turned 20 after I was born. My mother turned 18 6 months after I was born, and got her GED after the fact. They both are high school educated, so I was the first person to go to college, and I went to college in Champaign-Urbana at University of Illinois. So that's where I grew up until about 21 years ago, and I moved to California, and I love it here, and I'm so grateful to be here, and it's an honor to be mayor of Duarte. So I couldn't be more thrilled with my journey.
Yeah.
My grandmother actually was my primary caretaker when I was young. So she was 60 years older than me and was a very strong woman. And so even though my grandfather had some problems and things like that, she raised 5 kids. She used to work at Olin Mills. I don't know if you know what that is.
Sure do.
During the war, sometimes double and triple shifts. And she really held the family together. And she was the person I looked up to more than anything and really shaped who I am, I think, for the most part. So I'm very honored to have had her. And I think she played a significant role in showing me the strength of women.
Love that. Mayor Shevlin.
Well,
Bigger city than 10,000 people in it? Or?
Well, I actually, not at the time. My father was in the Air Force, and my parents too were very young. When I was born, my mom was 19, my father was 20, but I was born on an Air Force base in Alamogordo, New Mexico. And so at that time in 1952, there was not a whole lot going on in Alamogordo, New Mexico. So didn't grow up there. Then we went to Florida. He was stationed there. And then we came back to California, where my parents are both from. Unfortunately, my dad died very young. I was 9, and my dad was 30, and my mom 29, and was left with three kids, 9, 8, and 4. I was the oldest, but I grew up in it's the unincorporated area of Arcadia. I went to Rio Hondo Grammar School and to Arroyo High School, and then I went to PCC. But at any rate, so it was a much different time. It was 1961 when my dad died, and a much different atmosphere. And I was always looked at very strangely because I didn't have a father. And so it's like it was like I had barriers that were put before me.
Yeah.
But my mom raised 3 kids, all on her own, and I never heard her complain, and she got us through. So I look up to her, and she was very strong. And because my father died so young, I never looked at it as it was a task for a boy or a girl or a man or a woman. If it was something that had to be done at the house, I did everything from yard work to painting walls to you name it, and it was just things that you took upon yourself and you got them done. There weren't all those role models saying, "Oh no, well, that's a girl's thing," so or a boy's thing. I kind of did it all.
Yeah, for sure. So it was more the family was your role models, as you're saying.
Yeah.
For you, Jody, what was it like? Role model. Who was there anyone in particular? Was it a family member or anyone that you looked up to growing up?
It was sort of the same. My grandmother was a big part of that for me, and just having such young parents, and they were not always around. It just became the fact that if something needed to be done, or if I needed to figure something out, I needed to do it. There wasn't necessarily anyone who could help me. My grandmother had an 8th grade education. So, a lot of my journey has been me figuring things out. And I think that has created a resilience in me that has made it possible for me to do other things. So I would say that.
Wow.
I'd say I'm an optimist, and I don't look at something, I don't look at a problem like, think immediately all the things, or why couldn't I do it? I think of, no, how can I do this? So it's much better to have that positive framework to to look at how can I do it instead of can't.
Interesting, as I'm talking to both of you now, it's already a through line of like just doing it. Like you're here, do it.
My mother would always say, well, honey, it'll work out one way or another. Yeah, you worry about that another part, but hey, it's going to happen whether you're going to be a part of it or not. So why not be a part of it and have some control over the situation?
Yeah, sure. When was there a moment that you would say that like you knew you were a leader, or you felt like that? Or was it a moment for leadership specifically?
I think for me, when I first became a leader, I didn't realize I was a leader. So same thing. So you plan on things, and I'm a dreamer. People tell me I'm crazy sometimes and it can't be done, but telling me no is the worst thing you can do.
You're going to prove somebody wrong.
That's right. And so it may not always end up the way that you had planned it to, but most of the time it ends up better. And so when I was young, even when I was in high school, I found myself thinking outside of the box and being different than other people. I didn't have, I was a cheerleader and things like that. But if I had to look back and say, I had one good friend probably, and then acquaintances. But, I think that's sort of one thing that you start realizing is when you are sort of an out of box thinker, and not always just conforming to the rules, right? When you're questioning, well, I think we could do it differently. That's when I think you start realizing that, hey, there's something else here for me, and maybe I should start thinking bigger. And so I think that's sort of happened to me at a young age, maybe because of my family dynamic. And from there, it just sort of grew. So I took advantage of my out of the box thinking and embraced it, and embraced being different. And it's gotten me here today. So I'm glad that I did.
Did you start to embrace being different? Because that takes longer.
Yeah. So that takes longer. I would say that probably when I moved to California, that was the biggest thing I chose to do that I did on my own. I didn't even have a job when I came here. I saved up some money and I decided to move here. And I think it was then when I was by myself, when there truly wasn't anyone that I knew or could rely on, and just had to build it myself. I think that's when I started realizing, like, I can do this, and being able to do those things and achieve things without the support or even resources that you might need really shows you how to find them and what to do and how to change and grow within yourself. And so I would say probably it took me about 20 years.
Yeah, sure.
maybe 15 years. But yeah, so that is a journey, and that's something that I would say for young people is, you know, when you start feeling that difference, start embracing it then, small pieces at a time, because then once you realize it and you can really take action on it, then you're prepared to do so. And being different is the best thing you can be, as far as I'm concerned. My daughter's an example of that. So
I love it.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm a dreamer myself. Was there a moment for you, Mayor Shevlin, that you realized, like, it sounds like you were kind of leading the way pretty early?
I'm not sure, but back in the day, I guess you'd say, there weren't as many resources and things like that, or they didn't look to see girls being involved in things. I was a cheerleader too, so I followed a very similar path as many maybe young girls do, and I did that in high school, and then I realized I didn't have a support system after high school, and it was really kind of scary. And I did go to PCC, but and graduated from PCC. But there was, I suppose, if you think about something that was really different that occurred in my life that made a change. I tried out for the Tournament of Roses when I was at PCC. I thought, there's not a chance that I'm going to get this. So there were so many girls, but I was on the Rose Court in it was the fall of 71 or January 1st, 1972. And Lawrence Welk was the Grand Marshal. But that was something that really took me out of into a totally different circle with different people and things. And it was really a very positive event in my life. And it just set me on a course that I knew that I could do other things. And so that was fun.
Was the moment like that, I can do other things, but you're there at a new place, was it anything you saw that was like, or what was that whole experience like of stepping into something different?
Plus it was, now again, a lot of things have changed, but on the Queen and Court Committee, it was all men, and you had to interview. And I remember doing it, and I was so nervous. And one of the when you remember funny things that happened to you, and I was so nervous, and I had to walk into this room and sit in a chair, and the chair was wrought iron, and it had arms on it. And I went to sit in the chair, and I totally missed. And I sat on the arm of the chair, and I fell into the seat. And so I've never forgotten that. Well, it was very humiliating. But at any rate, I just,
they didn't forget you after that, I'm sure.
But it was just a lot of fun. I met a lot of different people that I wouldn't have normally been exposed to. So it was just a lot of fun, and that something like that. And then about at least 35 years ago or so, then I got involved I took a Leadership Academy class. It was through the chamber at the time, Monrovia Chamber. And I realized there were so many things you could do to get involved. And so I just I took that first step, and I got involved, and I became a community services commissioner, and then that led to involvement in the chamber, and I was ultimately a chamber president, and then, the next step, and then I ran for city council, and now I'm mayor.
I love it. So now, I'm gonna go to you, Mayor Schultz, on this, because now it's getting exciting. I want to know, like, you're both here now, but there had to have been moments or a challenge or a person that, you know, what for you would you say one of your toughest challenges, and how were you able to get past that?
So my daughter was diagnosed with autism just a couple months before she turned 3. She didn't point or wave or clap or even acknowledge that you were next to her. And when we first found out, it was devastating, and I knew nothing about it. I have a master's degree in biology and have done genetic analysis, and this is something I have never done. So it wasn't a matter of not being able to know. It was a matter of it just never impacted my life before, and so I never had a reason to. So I began at that moment doing all the research that I possibly could and learning as much as I possibly could to get her the support and the tools that she needed. And so that became my dedication and is my dedication to this day. So I would say all of the resilience that I had built up prepared me for that moment, but it was truly that moment that I found my purpose in life. She's 11 now. She is graduating from elementary school from 5th grade today. She'll be a middle schooler. She's in general education. She is social. She is wonderful. And it's a lot of her own hard work using the tools and resources that we have found for her. And it's been challenging. And in 2018, I ran for school board because I saw the challenges that were happening in the schools. And I didn't win that race. I lost to a 20 and 30-year incumbent. So a couple of years later, when there was a seat opening up on city council, I thought, well, I want to find out about this. Maybe I can make a bigger impact there. Yeah. And so, it turns out the seat that was opening was not my district. So I ran, I campaigned against the incumbent, and I was honored to have won the race. And so I was elected to city council, and now I'm mayor. So I think, all of the things that I do are to advocate for her and for other children, for education, and to advocate for those who cannot advocate for themselves. So being able to be in this position and have this forum to do that is a tremendous honor. And I was brought here by that moment when my daughter was diagnosed.
Wow, that's powerful. For you, Mayor Shevlin, what was that tough challenge, or that tough, was there a tough moment, or was it all just kind of like,
I think going way back, that when my father died, that was a very defining moment. I didn't get mad at life. I didn't blame anyone or anything like that, but that definitely changed my life. At that point in time, Sundays were family days, and you went to grandma's house for dinner. It all just like stopped. And that was very jarring to a little girl and a small family. But at any rate, growing up in the 60s and whatnot, it was probably the concept that as a girl or a woman, you fell short. You weren't complete. You came from a broken family. And I didn't accept that. I didn't accept that. And thank goodness that things have changed a whole lot since the 60s. But at any rate, I've just always, and if there are any young ladies out there listening right now, don't ever let anyone tell you that you can't accomplish something. It might not, like you said, it might not always turn out the way you planned, but there's always a way to get ahead, or to improve yourself, or to hit that goal, to improve yourself. It's just, and as time went on and I got involved in things, and I'd have a success, or it turned out better than I thought it would. And like you said, and having a platform to be able to, especially now, I'm involved with the San Gabriel Council of Governments, and I know that San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments, and we have this mental health ad hoc. And actually, Jody was online yesterday when we were talking about it, and it's so important. The main purpose of this ad hoc is to educate people, to have them know it's real easy for all of us to complain about anything and everything, but it's a whole nother thing to take the time to say, I'm going to educate myself on this topic. I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to help. I'm going to get involved. And so hopefully through this mental health ad hoc that we have, people are going to look at this mental health issue and understand it is so complex. It is so technical, and it's hard. It's just hard. But Jody and I have already even spoken about advocating for people with autism, and how we might be able to do things in that field, and the connectiveness that we have through elected office, or whether it's through the chamber or the San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments, but that is through an elected position. It gives you power and satisfaction to know you made a difference. You've got a platform, but I like to, education's my big thing, and being educated before you complain.
Yeah.
Well, you can complain, but really know what you're complaining
Yeah.
about, and seeing how you can make a difference, and working together with people to make a difference.
Yeah. What Marisol's advice would you give to a young lady?
So I would say, you know, what Becky just said is one important thing. Get all perspectives. You have to see both sides of it before you can come to an opinion. But otherwise, find the people and the resources that you need to be able to do the things you want to do. Don't take no for an answer. And make sure that you are strategic and you're able to be emotionally ready for it, because a lot of what you find in any part of your life is how you react to things makes all the difference. And so finding that calm within yourself, even when you get the most devastating news, and looking and finding the box now where I need to go into so that I can unwrap this conundrum and make it work and understand what's going on. That's what I would say. You have to be calm, you have to pick yourself up, and then you have to find and take the next step.
I did want to mention about in the chamber, my goal that year, or my little motto, was ask. If you don't ask, you'll never know. But don't be afraid to ask. Ask for that help. Ask. There's just you have to
I love
ask.
that. Yeah.
You have to take that first step. Ask. It starts the conversation, and then it takes you from there. And if the answer is yes, then that's great. If the answer is no, you still asked.
Yeah.
Because you'll never know.
Don't be afraid of no.
Don't be afraid. Because
no. You're gonna hear no a lot.
No might take you to a whole nother side of the conversation, and you never know. It'll lead you to yes. So, but always ask.
That is powerful. I just love that in 2023 we're able to have this conversation. I'm sitting with two mayors in neighboring cities, and it was 1974 was the year a woman could have a credit card in her own name.
Well, I grew up in the area where children were to be seen and not heard. So, did I always abide by that? No. But yeah, it's so important to ask those questions. Don't sit in silence. Don't suffer in silence. Ask. There's going to be somebody out there that can help you and support you, and so.
And find your purpose,
Yeah.
right? So you find your purpose, and it's not always the purpose that other people have planned for you. You will find it as you go through life and things happen and you have that moment. And even if you don't have a moment, it's sometimes just a feeling, or sometimes just thinking outside of the box and being different. But to get for me, right, I had that moment when my daughter was diagnosed. And now I'm in a position as mayor to advocate for that, and we'll be advocating over the next year to really look at making sure that federal funding that was promised through the Intellectual Disabilities Act is fully funded as it's supposed to be, 40% per pupil instead of the 7% that currently exists. So that's my platform now. Because of the devastating news that I had, I'm now turning that into something that I can advocate for all children with disabilities, so that they can get the education that they need to be successful. Because my daughter did not wave or point or know I was next to her when she was 3.
Not the case now.
Not the case now. But trust me.
But I don't want people to get the impression that you have to be mayor
That's
or
correct.
even on city council
That's
to
correct.
have a platform.
Yeah.
And so I always say, when people say, oh, I want to get involved, I want to volunteer, be careful what you say, because I will hook you up.
It's true.
And so it's not that you have to be the mayor or on city council or whatever. You just have to step out of that comfort zone or out of that box and be willing to say, I'm here, I want to be involved, I want to be a part of a difference. And so there are plenty of things that people can do to make a difference. It's just nice when you are in elected office that you do have a larger platform and you can do things. So, but don't ever think that you have to become mayor first.
That's true. That is very
Yeah.
true. You don't have to be mayor. You have to find your purpose, and then you have to find the people that support that purpose and can help you get there. And that takes all kinds of different
all the unsung
ways.
heroes that do and volunteer, and they don't get accolades and things like that. They just do their business, and they have their goals, and they get things done.
I love it. I love it. Mayor Schultz, Mayor Shevlin, thank you so much for joining
You're
me.
welcome.
I hope
It's
that
fun.
you will get to rewind this back. I know I will be, to hear what these ladies were sharing. That was very powerful. Thank you again. And I hope you all enjoyed this conversation of ladies in leadership. Thank you, ladies.
Chris.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
all of you.